Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Jacob's Ladder. As you can tell by the thumbnail, you are in for quite a surprise. This show is borderline bonkers. So, welcome! I'm so happy everybody pressed play. Oh, good grief. This show is so... It's out there. It's out there. But I know that you love out there, right? Because we're in the world, but we're not of the world. We are from another place, my friends. The kingdom of God is calling, and we have much work to do. But we can't do the work that we've been given to do if we're being mind controlled by the mind worm. Is it an alien species taking over humanity like Invasion of the Body Snatchers? If you're new to the channel, by the way, hi, welcome. I hope that you do hit that subscribe button. I'm Jacob Israel. I'm a speculator. I like to take things in the world and I like to bring out some spiritual meaning within it, you know? But the things we're going to talk about today, I'm not saying they're real. Because, of course, how would I know? I'm not in the know. I'm just a little YouTuber, just doing my part, just at the ladder, trying my best to get people to ask for the truth no matter what the cost, just like the shirt says, to love people. But it's kind of hard to do that when you're being brainwashed and you're being mind controlled to hate people. That's not a good thing. Let's take a look at that thumbnail. Okay. It's something that we really need to consider. If you haven't seen my last show, the one that I did just recently, resisting the mind virus is it's an important thing because it has to do with the fact that there are a bunch of algorithms that are in control that, you know, are going to kind of manipulate you, force you to, I don't know, make weird purchases. You know? You say something about maybe, I don't know, I'm having a problem when I sleep at night. I wake up in the morning and I have dry mouth all the time and I got to drink water all the time. Next thing you know, you're like just hit with a bunch of Biotine ads. And that's right. I went and I bought Biotine to hopefully help with my dry mouth. I don't know what it is. I guess I'm snoring or something. But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about something that is affecting probably everybody. And as you can tell by the Don't Thread on Me, which is an artist known as Drip Bits, who follows the channel's friend of the channel, follows me on Twitter and stuff, shares some great things. Well, that's the Meadow logo. The Meadow logo for their new threads. They're going to try to combat Twitter as if they have a chance. Twitter is just so much cooler than any other platform. And I say this not because I'm a spokesperson, but because I really like the format. I really do. Facebook has been burying me for a long time, so it's nice to actually be able to share things and reach people. At least, 10% of the people. Well, Meta, that is Zuckerberg's, new that's the name of their company now. They went from Facebook to Meta, which in Hebrew, by the way, means dead. Dead. It's the place of the dead. That's right, because Facebook is a dying place. But Meta's Threads is like a new thing, okay? And their app is, a lot of people jumped on board really quick. I kind of mentioned it briefly in my last show. And by the way, welcome to everybody in the live chat. I see you all. And I'm glad that you all came here. If you look at the logo, a lot of people are pointing out the fact that they're like, a lot of people said to me, they're like, Jacob, you just did the Barbie thing, the Barbie breakdown where you talked about how there was the 6 and the 6 and then the inverted 6. And you said you felt like this was the thing. And then all of a sudden Threads came out like the next day. And turns out I guess they got the 6, and the inverted 6 as well. And also, according to Elon Musk, Zuck is a cuck. I don't know what a cuck is. I do. I think it's short for cuckold. Which there's a lot of symbolism and a lot of, there's a lot that we can go into when it comes to that. But, he kind of wants to have he was supposed to battle everybody in the Coliseum, right? So Elon against Zuckerberg, right? The two titans doing battle. for our entertainment, because what else do we got to do while everybody steals all of our rights away, right? That's something to talk about, something for me to do a show on. The two titans are going to do battle. But you know what? Elon took it up another level, and he said, you know what I want to do? He says, I think we should have a measuring contest. He said we should have a measuring contest of the private parts. Yeah, that's a thing. Who do you think's going to win? Who do you think's going to win? What is going on? Right? What is going on? It is really a strange thing to think that we are in a day when the most powerful people in the world are talking about measuring their junk. But I guess that's what happens when you're in the place of the dead. That's what meta means. Place of the dead. Oh, good grief. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to talk about some things. It's going to freak a lot of you out. It's going to probably stress a lot of you out. And I don't want to add or fuel any of the fire of paranoia that is already being lit. I want to remind you that all of this that I'm about to talk about, it's just me and the writer in me. God, I hope none of this is real. But you could certainly make a case that it could be. When you start to lay everything out on the table, you start to say, well, maybe maybe people should listen to Jacob. Maybe they should take a moment to think that they shouldn't just act upon whatever thought pops into their mind. Maybe they should take their thoughts captive like Christ taught. Maybe the keys of the kingdom is a thing. When you look at that thread logo, okay, you see something that looks like a worm. We're going to talk about that. But why now? Why now why now is this what we're talking about when this is something that's been going on a long time and I've kind of warned about? You're going to see this. But Zuck returns after 11 years. I want to point out that number 11 because, of course, 11:11 is my favorite passage of Scripture, Revelation 11:11. 11:11, the wake-up call that everybody talks about, 11:11. 11:11. A lot of people are stressed about 7-Eleven. That's coming tomorrow. I'm not so much. I'm more concerned about 7/12, where I'm getting my knee done, getting some surgery. Going to get my knee fixed so I can stop limping. You know, Jacob, he's been walking. He's been walking with a limp for a long time. It's time to get that fixed. But Threads, this tech rivalry that's going on between Elon Musk and Zuckerberg, it's more than just entertainment. There's a deeper message here, and I hope that you can do me a favor, because like less than half of you have hit the like already. If you could just hit the like, just exit out of the chat for a second, hit the like, because people need to watch this. So, after 11 years, Zuckerberg shares his first tweet. And what is that tweet? This is where it gets weird, people. The tweet is Spider-Man pointing to himself. Spider-Man's pointing to himself. Now this is strange, because this is the same tweet that Elon tweeted out a while ago. And when Elon tweets something, we know he means more, that there's something else going on. So what does it mean? Well, we have the Spider-Verse movie that just came out, which Elon and I'm sure Zuckerberg both are well aware of. Spider-Verse. Strange. So I asked myself the question, I'm like, what are they trying to say with this? Is this like a multi-dimensional thing? Is this a clone thing? Is this a what's going on thing? Am I wasting all of my time thinking of these silly things? Well, I say no. And in a little while, you're going to find out why. So, don't you think it's weird that Elon shares it and then Mark Zuckerberg shares it? That's weird, right? Well, what if I told you that not only did they share it, but Taylor Swift shared it too? That's right. Taylor Swift just came out with her latest video, which I think is called I Can See You or something. But she shares this meme of her Taylor Lautner and his wife recreating the iconic Spider-Man meme, The Tale of Three Tailors. A tailor uses thread. Oh, oh, you feel those goosebumps? Is it just me? Is it just me? Three tailors, a thread. Tailors use threads. Wild, right? You know what's wilder? Check out the bell in the background. Take a look behind Taylor Lautner, who, by the way, used to be a wolf. He was in the Twilight series. It's very interesting because we've talked about the wolf that stands next to the bell. There's a picture of the Trumpster in his, his cards, his trading cards, NFTs, where he's carrying the bell. But if you look under his arms, let me see if I can blow this up for you because this really kind of blew my mind. I said, oh my goodness gracious. I said, is that an 1111 behind his arm? Wouldn't that be wild? If Taylor Swift is sharing some random Spider-Man meme after Elon shares his random Spider-Man meme, after Zuck shares his random Spider-Man meme, before we start to think that maybe there's nothing random about the spider web that is being played out for all of us to hear. Now, I see the bell and I say to myself, I reach out to my buddy X and I'm like, hey, what do you know about bells and mind control? He doesn't answer. What else is new? Right? I don't get any insight. But I do a little bit of digging and I realize that frequency is a big deal. And that frequency can actually change the way a person thinks. It's like a vibration or a frequency or something. A lot of people are worried and concerned about some kind of frequency that's now hitting us. In Scripture, they talk about this trumpet that sounds, and a trumpet has a bell, and Trump has a bell. And I'm not saying that the two are related, besides the fact that it sounds like they're related. But what if mind control is real? What if what I've been sharing on this channel for a long time is true? I don't think it's true. I don't think that that we got to worry about some kind of alien worms possessing us and controlling us. Although we're going to talk about that on the show because, of course, there's a lot of weird things that I discovered over the years that kind of lend to that. But what I am saying is, if it is true, what are we going to do? What we would do is we would learn to use that to our advantage. The scriptures teach us very clearly how we're supposed to take our thoughts captive. My last video, I talked about this. This is what demonic possession is. So demonic possession is you're possessed by a demon. What is a demon? A demon is a liar from the father of all lies. It's a lie. There's a lie in your head, and how do you cast it out? With the truth. But you have to know that the liar is lying to you and that you are capable of receiving lies before you start to think that every ridiculously hateful and fearful and worrisome thought in your head is you. Because most likely it isn't. Could be one of those earworms. You know what an earworm is? You get a song, it's in your head. Again and again and again, you can't get it out of your head. You keep thinking of that song. Oh, God, I can't get that silly song out of my head. It's an earworm. Playing again and again and again. And you don't think that we're all being played by a fiddle? Played, I should say, not by a fiddle, but like a fiddle. You don't think we're being played? You don't think that everything that we ingest all day long, you don't think that we're being directed? If I'm directed to buy biotin for my dry mouth, right? You're probably directed to do all sorts of things that you're not aware of. And that's where it gets scary. So I start thinking, I've done all these shows about the invasion of the body snatchers. I did a show called Invasion of the Christ Snatchers. That's right. I did. I did all these shows, and I throw them out there just as like, oh, this is weird. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm thinking. And then stuff like this starts to happen, where it becomes almost like confirmation of sorts, where I feel like, oh, I am obligated now to share with all of you what I'm seeing in my head as a writer. So, Taylor Swift, let me make this a little smaller. So Taylor Swift shares this meme in her video, which is called I Can See You. All right. Now, before we get into that, I want to point out the fact that the bell that you see in the background, well, bells are very significant. And it was funny because when I saw that, I thought of a video I did a long time ago, because I think the word is, and you got to tell me in the live chat, I think it's cymatics. Is that the word I'm looking for? Something about sound and how it can affect things. You've seen those, those experiments where sound can change the shape of water, or sound can change the shape and rearrange sand. Do you think it's possible that sound could maybe do the same with us? That's the question. So I see the bell, and I think of the Trumpster and a little while ago where the bell was tolling. It was strange because it was the Undertaker's bell. This was, I guess, about a year ago, where he was on the road and he was just starting to speak again, and he was like, he was going to come back. This was the beginning of his comeback tour, right? Before he takes over, he takes the reign. And he entered with the Undertaker, who I wrote for, Mark. I was his writer between 99 and 2000. How strange. You hear that bell tolling and you think of the Undertaker. So I did this. Let me see if I can just pull it up. I don't even know if I even have it here. Let's see if I can pull this up for you. I had it a second ago. There we go. All right. So let's just take a look at this. All right. Just take a listen.
Eerie about Trump's NRA speech, and it wasn't about gun control. When he read out the victims' names of the children, there was a loud gong that they sounded in between, and it reminded me very much of a video that I did in January where you'll see the Undertaker in the background. The reason I did that is because he used the Lord of Darkness's Rest in Peace entrance music to his political rally for saving America. This. So imagine my surprise when I hear this today.
McKenna Lee Elrod. McKenna Lee Elrod.
I mean, is this totally tone deaf?
So you could probably see how it's strange. Threads. 3 Taylors. Threads. When I hear the word thread, you know what I think of? I think of like weaving a web. It's interesting that you have the Spider-Man meme as a thing. But this is where it gets a little bizarre. So Taylor, this is a part of her video. And if you look at her arm, she has written on her arm, I had the time of my life fighting always with you. And then you'll see I wrote, look at the 1111, but it's really not 1111. It's all ones. And I said, she's in a computer. It's weird, right? Beneath that, of course, is Trip Bits, the artist that you'll get to know if you follow me on Twitter. He shared how they're clones, and it is what it is. But Taylor does this video. Now, this video I watched, and I'm coming off of a video where I'm talking about AI kind of taking control, crossing that bridge. Like the seal's broken. Like Trump said, the seal's been broken. The crossover from, that dimension to this dimension, it's crossed. AI's already in. they wormed their way in. Of course, I don't mean this because I don't know this to be true, but we're telling a story here. We're just telling a story. We're just having a little bit of fun, right? Everybody in the chat, right? You're all with me. Don't get freaked out. So Taylor has this video, and I want to just, I'm going to play a little bit of it before we get into everything. There she's singing in the computer. I'm not going to play it because I don't want to get hit. So then you got these thieves who are basically, they're coming in and they want to set Taylor free because Taylor's inside of this vault, which, by the way, the vault, which looks a lot like a computer because, of course, it has a lot of ones, and you see it? Okay. Now, behind Taylor in this picture right there, I want to make sure that I'm transitioned over. Good. Okay. So behind Taylor, you see this thing that is covered. And you're going to find in a second that it is an image. So Taylor ends up, there's this great scene, Lautner really just showing off his martial arts skills, and they fight off all of the people. And of course, the whole time she's inside the vault, waiting to be set free, just waiting. And they blow the vault up. And what happens when Taylor comes out? She's carrying something. But what is she carrying? Let's take a look at what she's carrying. Let's see if I can pull that picture up. It's a picture of her. It's actually a photo of her, like an image. That's her in the background right there. It's an image of her, a painting of her. It's the image of the beast, if you will. So she ends up carrying the image out of the vault, which I find to be strange. Like, why there she is. There she is. So now the image of the beast, of the Taylor, if you will, not calling Taylor a beast or the Antichrist, of course, this is just symbolism, my friends, as now in the world. This is about AI coming into the world and taking over. How AI has been watching us the whole time. I see you. I see you. I long to be with you. It's very strange. Well, strange that it came out at the exact same time that we've been talking about all this stuff. Threads is very weird. A lot like a worm. Why should you register your Threads account quickly? People are making a big deal, like all of a sudden, like there's 10 million signups for Threads all of a sudden. Oh, by the way, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that, all in Wonderland. Yes, hit the like and share, everybody. Love you too. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the super chat. That's always a blessing. I appreciate you all doing that. I appreciate you all hitting the like. It helps. You got no idea when you hit that like. It recommends to so many more people. It's a simple thing that it produces great results. Well, we recently just talked about Solomon's worm. Solomon's worm that builds the temple of God. And then I talked about Jonah and the worm that God prepared. So we've already been talking about worms on the program. We've been talking about parasites. Tell me in a live chat, how many of you remember me drinking wormwood tea again and again and again? Not even knowing why I'm doing it, but I said it has something to do with worms. I don't know what it is. And it has something to do with parasites. I don't know what it is. If my science fiction mind and writer mind is going, I think I know what it is now. And it's very concerning. Okay? So, Threads comes out. It comes out after I do my Barbie show with the 666. It comes out with the logo with the 666. 2 6s, 1 inverted. Same thing. Very interesting. Everybody starts comparing it to a worm. Because, of course, Twitter is going to eat that worm because Facebook is not cool. So not cool because, of course, they really do censor the heck out of you, or so we're told. This is what we believe. This is what my experience has been, so I can't disagree. Facebook has, couldn't share my website on Facebook for a long time. I don't know if it's been resolved. I don't know. I just trust that God's going to work it all out. But a lot of people comparing that Threads logo, those 3 6s, 2 normal, 1 inverted, to a worm. Those are just a couple of tweets. If you go and you type in Threads and worm, you're going to get a lot of people that compare it to a worm. Why is Meta's logo compared to a worm? And what worms do we know that are threads? A parasite that is combated with a certain medication that's won all sorts of awards and is super cheap and easy to manufacture and easily and readily available and supposedly super helpful, that kills these worms, called ivermectin. I said that like that as if somehow that's going to help. I don't know how it's going to help, but this is a medicine that's been in the news a lot, and people have talked about it being like a horse drug and everything else, but it works on parasites. So why would it work so well on like the virus of the crown and everything else? Once again, the writer mind in me starts to say, could it be invaders from another world, like space jellyfish or space worms or something? Or better yet, an ancient race of worm parasites that have been embedded for thousands and thousands of years in the ice. And then we found them. And then all of a sudden they're loosed. And now everybody's in charge of nothing anymore because, of course, they're in charge now. Very strange. Threadworms. Threadworms, everywhere you go. I've talked about worms a lot. I did a whole show about the Kids' Choice Awards. And like, why on the Kids' Choice Awards were there worms everywhere? That's just a picture of their stage from 2023. Worms in the background, worms and eyeballs all over the place. And behind the guy dancing right there, you'll see a picture of Seymour. Seymour from that little shop of horrors, that awesome musical. Seymour, the plant, that was an alien worm. Oh my goodness, look at this. Thank you very much. Praying for a fast recovery. What is truth? I pray, yes, this is going to be fine. I just got to rest it. This is, just as from editing, believe it or not. I grab my phone and it's from turning my hand like this and editing. I do everything on my phone. That's what it is. See what I do for you. See what I do. I'm in pain for all of you. And thank you, David. I appreciate it. Yeah, my take is definitely out there. He says he appreciates my take. But why are there worms all over the Kids' Choice Awards? Why does the Threads logo look like a bunch of worms? Could it be there's something to it? Like, think about this for a second. If an earworm is something that gets in your head, gets you thinking about a song all the time, it's a song you've heard. How many people spend their time on social media? If you're on Threads all the time, do you think it's possible for you to get a threadworm? To get a bunch of negative stuff going into you? To start hating people, to start thinking the worst, to being scared. And then what you do is you project, because God has given us the ability, with faith, all things are possible. God's given us the ability to shape and reshape this world. He gave it to us. I give you control over everything. Everything. You don't think that maybe the threadworm could, minimize you, get you to be scared, get you to, do all sorts of weird things? Like wear 18 different coverings on your face now? When I'm at the store, it's strange to see. But I get it, because that threadworm once got me. But fool me once, as they say, right? Wasn't that from I Pet Goat, where they had a... By the way, get your merch in the descriptions of the video. I Pet Goat, where Bush was like, fool me once, shame on, whatever. Don't be fooled. That's the thing. Rule and reign with Christ. Don't let the threadworm get to you. But what if we take it a deeper level? What if there's more to it than even just that? What if these worms are something big? What if God has been kind of inspiring me to talk about worms? And I've talked about them a lot. I've talked about the invasion coming a lot. Not to say that I know that to be true. I think I'm just a writer. But if it is true, you should take my advice and pray, seek more, because of course God's in charge of everything. And a worm was what built that temple, right? And a worm was what ate that gourd, right? Fear not, you little worm, Jacob. Okay, so let's take a look at this. 3 months ago, almost exactly, like almost to the day, I do this show called The Final Solution Approaches. The final solution that I said was AI taking over your minds. And if you look in that thumbnail to the left, you'll see top right-hand corner of that thumbnail. That's a tweet by Elon Musk where a program is being loaded into an NPC. That's what the whole show was about, right? About the aliens, to serve man. You see that? But I featured a worm. I don't know why. That worm I remember when I created that thumbnail, that worm would just stuck out to me, right? And then here we are 3 months later. I do another show, not thinking of this show that I did 3 months ago, because I do these shows and then I move on to the next thing. You know, I don't make the connections. It's not like I remembered this show. I found this out later after doing the last show that I just did called They Released the Demon. That last show would be like The Final Solution Approaches, and I'm like, now it's like they released it. Threads is out. But take a look at the fact that the worm is in Twitter's mouth. That worm. It's AI worms in both. And I just find the whole thing to be a bit more than coincidental. I feel like maybe there's something going on. Maybe God was trying to say something about a parasitic worm that is going to somehow take over. Would make sense, right? Because like Lady Gaga and a lot of people, remember Lady Gaga? She did that show where she arrived in the egg and then she went on like Leno and she's like, yes, a new race. You know, a race, 2 out of 1, you know, about some parasitic race coming in and kind of taking over. Could you imagine? There's a show called Host, a movie. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. About an alien race that comes in and the two kind of merge together. Host. Strange. And it's going to get stranger. You watch as we continue to talk. Because worms are all in the news right now, too. We got something about worms being on steroids. They're jumping out of the ground and they're shedding their tails. And there's an invasive worm species found in Dork Country and an invasive worm species that's wreaking havoc in North Wisconsin. And there's an invasive worm species in Canada. And this magnetic robot could worm its way into human vessels. A worm, a thread, taken over. Freaky. Freaky, right? Is it just me? You got to tell me. Like Tammy Muffet saying, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Is that true? Charlie saying the snake that's eating itself. Maybe that's the truth. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe that's why it's the Ouroboros that everybody's talking about, right? The end and the beginning. It's all happening now. The final solution is here. Threads. Whew. Coming to a theater near you. Now, this is a little gross. I want to show this to you. I don't even know if I should. I'm going to show it to you quick, and then I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to get you something else, okay? So they have this thing called, I'm just going to move this off to the side for a second, Threadworms. Okay, we were talking about that. That's kind of what they look like. And of course, we see what ivermectin was used to treat. River blindness. And infection from threadworms and other kind of worm infections. Very strange. I look at those threadworms, and I think when I look at them, I think they look a little bit like this. Take a look quick. See that? That's all I'm going to show you. That's all I'm going to show you. I feel like it's like something growing, like a worm that's like growing inside of you, like there was an egg or something, and then it just pops out of that egg and it starts to grow. I don't know what it is. I don't know even if it's real. But this is like my mind, and I imagine, like if we're writing a really cool movie, taking world events and kind of like extrapolating on that and just making it more interesting, maybe the egg comes into the story. Maybe there's an egg, maybe something to do with that. I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing, it didn't take long for people to say that that meta logo, that thread logo, was actually predicted by The Simpsons. It's true. It's true. The Simpsons have predicted everything, right? So why should we be, I don't know, confused? Why should we think that's not the case? Why shouldn't we just accept it to be what it says it is? My buddy Dave on Twitter sent this to me. And by buddy, I mean anybody that I'm connected to that DMs me. I don't need to know you. Are you like, if you're going to DM me, you're going to email me, you're going to subscribe to me, right? We're all friends, right? We're all friends. Right? You can be friends with people even who you disagree with. Isn't that great? Wouldn't that be wonderful if people did that? If you started to care about people that even seem to be people that you shouldn't care about, like because the earworm, the thread told you shouldn't? Interesting. Well, Dave pointed this out and said, take a look. And I was like, wow. And then I was like, hey, well, Drip Bits sent me that Bart logo too. That Homer logo, I should say, and where he has it in his ear. And I asked him, because I thought it was strange. Like at first I got very excited and I told Dave, I'm like, wow, that's great find. I'm like, I can't wait to use that. And it turned out, I think it was just added later. You got to be careful. You don't know what's real. You don't know what's true. We don't know anything. We really don't. In the grand scheme of things, what do we know? We got to look. We got to research. We got to trust. We got to trust our intuition. We got to trust God. We got to ask for more. We can't just take one person's, like if I did a whole show about that because someone just said, hey, check this out. You got to be like a Bereanian. In scripture, they say the Bereanians were smarter than others because they didn't just take the apostles' word for it. They went and they searched to see if it was true. But psychically, Homer has that logo in his ear as well. Now, you know what else I find very strange is that I shared the Neuralizer on my last show. I talked about how Marf and others were talking about the new weapon that China has, which can incapacitate people, get them to be dummies, and also get them control their mind. And I shared that right there, the Neuralizer from Men in Black that you see in that tweet by Charlie Light. And then here it is on, just yesterday, where he says Mark Zuckerberg making everyone forget that he wasted $12 billion on the metaverse last year. And then Brett says, whoever these people are, or that Facebook is still a misinformation spreading machine. And then Elon wrote, censorship pays them well. The earworm, fake news. Strange. Because it is all about taking control of the minds and the hearts. What was the president of the United States who sniffs people and can barely walk? I don't know if you saw the footage of him. He met with the king and he had to hold on to the king's arm. It's like it's just like we're in a very strange movie. We're in a very strange movie. But we're biding our time. Valley of the shadow of death. While we're biding our time here, there's a lot happening. So I'm thinking about all this, and I'm thinking about how the thread, the earworm is making its way into all of our hearts and our minds, and how we need to guard our hearts. We need to guard our minds against this. And I start thinking, well, what if this has always been the case? What if this has always been around, right? And I start putting my show together last night. I get a bunch of stuff in there. And I knew I had more to go, and I was in prayer, and I'm like, well, what's next? And I get a call this morning. I'm at the gas station. I'm like going into the gym. It's where I get a lot of my work done. I do cardio. I do, sometimes I'll do the thing, and I'll be on my phone like this as I'm doing cardio, trying to work out, trying to get this done at the same time. And I get a call from Willing Witness, and we start talking about my show. We start talking about the show that I just did, and he brings up the Vril. I don't know if you heard anything about the Vril. It's like the worm. That's the thing. It's actually based on a story. So if you take a look at that on the left-hand side of the screen, it's the Vril, The Power of the Coming Race. It's a novel that was written basically in 1871. And you know what struck me as odd when I looked this up, because of course I knew about all this, is that I thought to myself, that looks a lot like a bell. The cover of the Vril, it looks like a bell. I blew it up. I don't know if for sure if it's a bell or something, but I find it interesting. So I'm talking to him about this, and we're even talking about maybe doing like a space about this on Twitter. Because his Twitter's like blown up. I don't know. He's almost like probably 100,000 followers or something. And we're going to do a space about this. I think this is an important topic. I think taking control of your thoughts is probably the most important thing there is. Not to be a bunch of mindless sheep that just go. Because see, the problem is if you hear it inside your head, you think to yourself it's you and that you should listen. The Antichrist in Scripture sits in the temple of God, stands in the temple of God, declares himself to be God. I said, what if it's AI, right? What if it's like an ancient race of artificial intelligence? What if it's the Vril? Same thing. These worms, these parasites, that according to the book were, they were basically in the caverns or whatever, and then there was this discovered, and you find out that they take over hosts. They take over people. They have telepathic abilities. And then, of course, that they create like this utopia. Now, this is where this gets freaky. Okay? So, and once again, this is not me saying there's a bunch of alien worms that are going to take over your brain, or AI is... I have no idea if any of this is even in the realm of possibility, but I like movies. I like talking to you about these things, and I understand that there is a spiritual message that can be learned. If you look at the voices in your head as maybe you're being played by a parasite, a demon, a devil, a liar, maybe then you can combat against it. That's what the scriptures say. Resist the devil, you'll flee. Moses held up a snake, a serpent. But if you looked at Moses holding up that thing, it could look a lot like a thread. It could look a lot like that thread. This is what's killing you. Your negative thinking, your carnal body, the snake that's eating its own tail. That's what's killing you. That's your problem. That's what Moses held up. So strange, right? Stranger still, take a look at some of the videos that I've done over the years. About a year ago, I do this thing. They came from space, and you'll see the Kraken. See the Kraken, right? The octopus in the background. And then there's another one, the Omicron alien invasion, the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. And of course, that was one of my little parodies, my little things, but based on an Italian movie about an alien race of body-snatching worms. So, strange. Stranger still, I do this video a little over a year ago called The Invasion of the Christ Snatchers. Because that's really what a devil would do, right? Would take away the thoughts of God, the truth of God, the peace of God. And if you take a look, let me just blow up this. Let me blow up this thumbnail so you could just take a look at this. I want you to just take a look at what's in the background. You take a look at that and you see an egg, right? You see an alien and you see some worms. Some worms. Worms are freaky, man. I don't like worms. Not a big fan. But sometimes you got to use the worms to get the fish, right? So we start to put all this together. So I start thinking, well, maybe I need to revisit this whole thing. Maybe I need to tie all of these little threads together for you so that you can see the bigger picture. And I want to remind everybody that there was a panic a while ago. People were freaking out. And why were they freaking out? Well, they were freaking out because, of course, of the Vril. New Yorker did a magazine about the Yahtzees. Okay? Now, you probably heard, listen, if you're watching my channel, you've probably seen other channels where they talk about the Yahtzees in Antarctica and all that stuff, and that their alien base is there, and and that the Yahtzees have, bases on the moon, that they're really shuttling back and forth, and that it really has to do with the Vril, this group of individuals that, by the way, were worshipped by all those theosophists. Is that the way you pronounce them? You got to tell me in the live chat. I don't know how to pronounce anything. In 1871, under an anonymous cover, oh, and by the way, yeah, that's right, you probably noticed there's a worm on an eyeball in the background. Yeah, I put that in there just to freak you out because it's gross to me. That's a worm. That's a threadworm on an eye, in an eye, just to illustrate the point. Gross. So this anonymous cover, which I said kind of looked like a bell, was published a novella called Vril, The Power of the Coming Race. Wouldn't that be something if they were telling the truth and that the coming race is already here? So the pen is mightier than the sword. In the opening line, it was a dark and stormy night. Now, I didn't read that until just now. I put that up. I was just going to talk about the Yahtzees, but I didn't read that until just now. And of course, if it has to do with a dark and stormy night, you know what I'm thinking, right? Some kind of storm that was coming. The calm before the storm. Yeah. Weird. So, some readers believe the account of this book that there's some subterranean master race and that they have this energy, this like goo. This goo that they can control and use to control, and they spend their lives like focusing their telepathic and psychic powers to control it. I don't know the ins and the outs of this, all this. We're going to do a space on it. I think willing witness, Derek, I think he knows a lot more than I do. But the subterranean master race and the energy form called Vril, the name of which is shortened for virile. Now, some theosophists, notably that lady and that guy, it's a problem when you say their names for some reason, they accepted this as truth. Now, what's weird is something weird happened in Antarctica a little while ago, right? Do you remember this? Yeah. Scientists like literally, let me just put this over here. Let me move this over here. Yeah, scientists discovered like a zombie virus. Yeah, zombie virus. Isn't that cool? Zombie virus in Antarctica. And around the same time, a lot of interesting people, a lot of notable people, they were making their way out there. Yeah, and if you notice, that article was updated at 9/11. Just want to point that out too. So you got Antarctica, you got some crazy discovery. They were going down there with basically they were like boring these things and they'd pull up these things and then they'd look at all this stuff and they found these crazy viruses. Virus is information. Viruses could be considered to be like a parasite as well. It could be a worm. Anything that can kind of take you over, right? Weird. Well, there was a slew of people that decided on an eclipse, the eclipse that just happened over Antarctica. They all went down there, all the bigwigs, all the hot shots, the Klaus Schwabs of the world, the emperor, all these guys, they get together. And they're like, hey, next stop Antarctica. And then just arrived in Antarctica. This will change everything. What? What in Antarctica could change everything from like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago? What do you think? What do you think? Strange. Thinking about worms, thinking about eggs. I'm talking about worms and eggs on my show for like years now. Warning about stuff for like years now. Here, let's take a look. Let's take a look at this before I get into the outside context problem, which is spooky. All right, just take a look at this right here. These are 3 videos I did basically back to back. I think there were live shows, pretty sure, 3-4 months ago. Well, do you remember when Elon was wearing the Omega shirt? And he put out this tweet which read, resist the current thing. Resist the current thing. And he was wearing the Omega sign, and I know it has to do with currency and all that. I get it. But what if it was more? Resist the current thing. Do you know there's news out right now about how worms travel on current? Strange. Strange. Nothing can stop what's coming. Wormwood is now, as it was in the days of Jonah, it is now. The final solution approaches. Worms. Worms. Everywhere you look. Worms. And then you got him talking about the outside context problem. Now let's take a look at this for a second. This is something that he tweeted out, I think today or yesterday. Of course, when it comes to these hot shots, the people that are in charge, the titans of the world, probably been around for thousands of years, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. The genetic dynasty, who knows? The outside context problem, I'm sure a lot of people looked it up. Do you know what the outside context problem is? It's a large-scale problem that is beyond the imagination of society. So this is a problem that we can't even imagine. Parasitic worms taking over your mind and turning you into zombies? I can't imagine that. That's an outside context problem. Strange. The classic example of this is an isolated island with primitive technology that suddenly encounters a more advanced civilization of Vril. I'm not saying they're real. I'm not saying they're a thing, but I'm saying that a lot of spooky people that were into a lot of spooky stuff were into the Vril because supposedly, I get corrected when I say supposedly because there's no B. It's supposed. Don't correct me, all right? Don't correct me. I don't know how to talk. Just enjoy the show. He says, worried about trying to say supposedly again. Vril, the power of the coming race, the new utopia. The new utopia? What is that word, utopia? Where have I heard that before? Where have I heard that before, utopia? Well, that's because their technology is so advanced. It's like a technocratic utopia. It's a digital Utopia. It's meta. It's dead, dude and dudette. Utopia. You know whose album is coming out? Speaking of worms, going to see how this all ties together in shows I've done before, which is just bizarre. Just bizarre. Travis Scott. He's in the news right now. I even retweeted a video that the Donut shared on Twitter about, you know, just all the numerology and all the interesting things attached to Travis Scott. Yeah, it's something that we really need to just take a longer look at, instead of just believing everything that we're told. I think it's time that we really need to dig a little bit deeper. Okay? Now, the Vril, according to that book, their society was very much like Egypt. Very much like Egypt, or whatever goes down to seas, that everything looks like Egypt. It's interesting. Because, of course, we just had a little while ago, we had the return of the gods to Egypt. We had a big parade in Egypt. I did a couple of videos about this a couple of years ago. Just look up, return of the pharaohs in Egypt. The return of the god is going to share his Utopia. He's going to share his Utopia album from the pyramids. And he's going to live stream it too. Now, if you look below, you'll see that video I was talking about earlier, the invasion of the Christ Snatchers. Of course, I showed you the worm, the parasite. We'll call it the Kraken. And you'll remember that Kylie was connected to the world famous egg a little while ago. Eggs. Eggs become worms. That was a little while ago. I'm not saying a bunch of eggs were somehow put into a bunch of people. I'm not saying that, because that'd be crazy talk. This is just entertainment. All right? This is entertainment. And if it was real, you still got nothing to worry about. Okay? Because we got the power. We got the power like He-Man. Power of thought. It's an important thing. Our words have power. I did a video, actually, a couple of years ago about Jacob's time of trouble. And I married it with, of course, you'll remember, here, let me blow this up for you, because this is an important thing. I didn't think it was going to be as important as I know it is now, but let me just move this out of the way. All right, we're going to take a look at this thumbnail to the left. Do you remember when those pillars started appearing everywhere? The monoliths, they started appearing everywhere. Tell me in the live chat if you remember. A little while ago, about 2 years ago, they just started showing up everywhere. They started in Utah, then in Romania. Do you remember people thought that Elon had like a Halloween party in Romania? He didn't. He still has his avatar where he's wearing the Devil's Champion outfit, which is just like silly. I think it's silly. I think it's silly. But that's okay, because look at the way I dress. I got God's Champion. I'm not wearing it today. So that would probably be silly too. But he had supposedly had like a Halloween party there. Some people were saying it wasn't him. It wasn't him. But the irony is that we had that second obelisk was discovered there. And if you know anything about vampires and you know anything about worms, you'll know that there was that FX series about the vampire, the master that went around, and guess how the vampire, through worms. Talk about vampires on the show as well. All of this stuff is just, it's coming together to a point where I'm like, I feel like I should write a movie or another book. I'm actually writing another book, but it's taking some time because I gotta do this. I don't have time to, I'm not getting paid to write the book. You know what I mean? So you look at those, and those monoliths, they have popped up everywhere. Now, do you remember when the monoliths popped up in that movie back in the day? I think it was called Space Odyssey. It was when the alien race was going to evolve mankind. The obelisks would appear. The monoliths would appear. And I told everybody, the aliens, they're going to probably try to evolve us. They're going to try to, And then, of course, all the Trump hood was screaming, "Release the Kraken." And I had to explain to everybody that the Kraken means release Satan. Not the best thing. Not the best thing. But, it is what it is. So is it possible that all of this was released at the same time? I don't know. You got to also tell me in a live chat. I see sometimes, it's the feed isn't that great. These are important shows, so there's going to be stuff that's going to maybe slow things down. But don't you find it strange? Don't you find it odd that you have all of this stuff happening at the same time? You got Travis Scott talking about utopia. Do you think it's possible that maybe every thought that comes into our mind isn't real? Do you think it's possible that we could be influenced? If you're a man of faith or a woman of faith, regardless of what category you fall in, if you're in Islam, you believe there's probably these things called jinn that are going to possess you. If you're Jewish, you're going to probably think that, there's probably devils or demons. Same thing if you're Christian. Same thing if you're Hindu. Same thing regardless, you probably believe it's possible that there is a outside force that worms its way into us to manipulate us, to control us, to guide us, to steer us. Is it so far-fetched to think that maybe an ancient race could do the same? I don't know. Is it so far-fetched to think that maybe that's the reason everybody hates ivermectin? Once again, these are all jokes. I'm just joking around. I'm not. I think to myself, sometimes I wonder if it is real. I wonder if any of this stuff is real. But I know that when I do these shows for you, it's not really about getting you stressed out and thinking, they're putting stuff in the water, they're putting stuff in the air. You could get that would be more paranoia and delusion that they're forcing on you. We have to be able to understand that what we see, what we're told we're seeing, may not be what we're really seeing. You got to test the spirits to see if they be of God. A spirit is a thought. Jesus said, "My words are spirit and they are truth." Test the spirits to see if they are true. When a thought comes to your head, control it. This is what it means to rule and reign with Christ. Remember, whatever is bound in heaven is bound in earth. Whatever is loosed in heaven is loosed in earth. Could you imagine if some technology, if some ancient race of alien worms grabbed hold of you to manipulate you to do that? I don't know. Maybe it's all working together for the good, like the scriptures say, and maybe we shouldn't stress ourselves about this. But I like science fiction. I hope you do too. I hope you had a good time talking to me today, and I hope that all you do me a favor and you hit the like button and you share the channel around. You make sure you're subscribed, and tell me what you think. Of course, I don't really know what to think. I just think all of this stuff is cool, and I'm glad that you took the time to listen. All right, I love each and every one of you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.